Caught up on Missouri, and I've kind of been in Kim's shoes, and he's to be credited, and so are those kids that they've continued to fight, and play the game the right way. And obviously, they're coming off a win on Saturday, back at home again, and they gave us everything we wanted the first time around. So another hard challenge in our hands, and that's the way life is. Road games, league play, late February. So we got to be ready for that one and go out there and play, obviously, better than we played this past Saturday, and then follow that up with a game with Florida, another team that I think is playing real well, and in a transitional year with new players and obviously a new coaching staff. I think those guys, as the year's gone on, have gotten a lot better.
With Missouri the first time, you just kind of alluded to it, but is it that they're just a young team starting to gel right now? Is that what's made them a little better and coming off Tennessee win?
Yeah, I mean, they've got two seniors in Wes Clark, who every time he plays us, he just lights up. You know, he just loves playing against us. And then Rosberg, I should say, who's averaging 20 points a game over his last three. That's what seniors do. That's you're seeing it with Michael Carrera on our team. That's what seniors do. They realize that their last college game is getting a little closer, and the sense of urgency gets bigger. And then freshmen, Perrier is their leading scorer. Continues to get better. As of late, he's been shooting threes, something he didn't do early in the year. Phillips is a rocket. He's going to be a phenomenal point guard in this conference moving forward. Wright, Walton, Gant, they just they've stayed the course. They're very young. They got a bunch of sophomores and freshmen around those two seniors, and they haven't wilted. And when you see teams, we lived it. That's who we were a couple years ago, where you're so young and you're in so many close games and you can't figure out a way to win, but yet they don't go away. That's a sign of something that's getting built the right way, and at least that's my opinion. I like their team a lot.
Coach, when you have a week like last week where the highs of highs and then obviously Saturday, is it just life in the SEC like you've said all year? How do you feel like your kids have responded since Saturday's game when you met with them and practice, and how do you feel like they'll respond on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into predicting wins or losses. I got no idea what the outcome of Saturday is going to be, but the DNA, the fabric of our locker room hasn't fallen apart at other times where things have been more difficult in the past. I don't anticipate it falling apart now. And if we just look at this year, we have rebounded from poor games fairly well. Does that mean that'll continue? I guess we're going to find out as far as the scoreboard goes. But as far as the guys in the locker room, the leadership of our team, that remains strong. That remains strong, and I know that's something I trust in. So I hope we have a healthy and competitive workout today, so we can get on that plane, with a fresh mindset and excited about the next challenge.
Coach, what did you take away from Saturday's game? Did you harp on it at all? Do you keep the tape evaluated for later, or do you kind of just burn it, move forward, and just say, hey, that was just one bad moment, no need to dwell on it?
No, we looked at it. We spoke about it, and the game was not a game where Kentucky came out and made every shot and beat us. On the contrary, they came out and they beat us. And once they realized that we were not punching back, then they started making every shot. And they were better prepared to play that game than we were. And they came out on edge, and I think we were on edge too. but as the first 7, 8, 9 minutes of the game unfolded, they imposed their will on us, and we never answered. And then they started making shots and beat us. But it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate that game evolved the way it did. It happens sometimes. Not much you can do about it. We take a lot of pride on walking off the court knowing that we laid it all on the line, and we've been pretty good with that. Obviously, Saturday wasn't one of our better showings when it comes to that.
Last week, Mendo was named an academic all-district performer. How nice is it on your end to see him continue to evolve as a player and still get it done in the classroom, especially with the language barrier?
Yeah, the whole deal. In the community, the amount of hours that he has spent in community service, as a leader in that locker room, the way he's taken Chris Silva under his wing from day one to guide him, help him, teach him, keep him in a level place emotionally and mentally as the young man goes through his first college season. The guys in that locker room respect the heck out of Mendogas. They respect the heck out. I think it's if you polled the players in our locker room, he'd probably be a runaway winner as to who they respect the most because he's so giving and so hardworking, and he takes pride in all aspects of his responsibilities, including the academic side. And 4 years ago, his English wasn't very good. And now here he is receiving those academic awards, and he's 10 years from now, we'll look back and we'll be real proud that he was part of that foundation that helped build our program.
Coach, with that said, it seems like no matter how the game's going, Carrera always seems like he's going to show up in the stat sheet one way or the other. How impressed are you with how he's evolved into the player that he's become now, being a senior on this team and guiding, USC to one of its best seasons thus far in a very long time?
It's what you got to have. It's players either want to be good or they don't. They either want the responsibility of leading or they don't. You, as a coach, you can't force that upon them. Mike has always wanted that responsibility of being good and leading, didn't know how to handle it very well. And because the biggest problem with that is that you can't demand that others do right and unless you're doing everything you're supposed to do. That's something that Mike has always wanted, that responsibility. And now he's gotten to a place where mentally and physically he's connected to where he can do things and he understands what needs to be done. And you're seeing just a passionate, relentless enthusiasm for competing, for leading, for performing. And as you've heard me say before, our team will be as good as Sindarius and Mike want us to be. When they're connected with who they are mentally, and then they perform physically, they make us a pretty good basketball team. And we'll see as we continue to move forward here these last 3 weeks of the season. But I can tell you that Mike's he's had a heck of a senior year up to this point.
Obviously, you face this every year and did it this year against Alabama, but how do you approach a rematch differently than facing them the first time around?
Yeah, you have to study tape and you have to see what the other team tried to do to bother you. You have to see what you tried to do that worked and what you tried that didn't work. You have to make subtle adjustments. Because in conference play, unlike this past Saturday, most of those games come down to those last 3-4 minutes. And when you're in those last 3-4 minutes, you're trying to close out a game. But to get it to that place, you're trying to steal a basket somewhere along the lines or prevent a basket somewhere along the lines. Those two cheap points you get because of an adjustment or the two cheap points you prevent because of an adjustment might be the difference in a game. That's how close these games are. And anytime you play a rematch, you know the other team's going to adjust some things from what they did the first time, and they're more familiar. Both teams become more familiar with each other. So then it becomes not so much an X and O as a desire, a discipline of wills to see who's going to be able to execute a little bit better.
Going back a couple questions ago, you've been asked multiple times since the game about Tyler Eulis and where he factors in the SEC. Do you consider Mike at that level that he should be thought of as the leader of the SEC? Yeah,
I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, we're in the top, I don't know what we are, 3-4 teams in the conference right now, and he's been pretty rock solid in his performances. Actually, when we played Missouri, he didn't play real well, but outside of that, he's in a stretch of games here where he's playing at a high clip, and you know, I'd like for us to finish the year the right way. And I'd like for our players individually to get recognized for our team success. That's something that's important. I'm a true believer that when your team wins, those players need to be recognized. And, you know, that's something that the other coaches in the league are going to, you know, they'll vote for that kind of stuff. But Mike's really performed well for us here in conference play.
What's going on with DeMarcus, and hadn't seen him in a while? Is it just practice or the hip, or is it what's his situation?
Not much, Phil. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's an unbelievable kid, and he practices every day. You know, there's a couple guys named Carrera and Thornwell that are pretty good. They don't really come out of games a whole lot. And in those practices that we evaluate every single day, some of the other guys that play that next role for us have played a little better than him. It's, you know, if there's a kid on our team that's not doing what they need to do, you're not going to see him on the sideline. It's, he's an awesome kid. He's a redshirt freshman coming from an injury that you know, it's we're all thankful that he's actually part of the team right now. He's continuing to reinvent himself as a player, and he's a lot better right now than he was back December 1st, and that's important because that's the progress that makes him feel good, and that's the progress that as a coach you're looking for to make sure that when players are getting better, that means they're in the right place mentally. Because if they're not in the right place mentally, they're not going to get any better. And he's in a much better place right now than he was a couple months ago.